In 1372, a small countryside chapel was sealed from the inside. Not abandoned, not destroyed, sealed. The doors were barred, the windows bricked over, the bell rope cut, and according to parish records, no one ever entered it again for 200 years, until the night they broke the seal and found the pews still warm. The village of Ashmere Hollow doesn't appear on most maps anymore. It's the kind of place swallowed by fog and memory. But in the county archives, there is a single entry dated October 31st, 1372. By order of the parish council, and in accordance with the will of Mark Radcliffe, the chapel shall be sealed and never opened again. No explanation, no recorded crime. Just wax seals and signatures from trembling hands. For 2 centuries, the villagers avoided the structure at the edge of the moor. Children were warned not to go near it. Livestock would not graze within 20 feet of its walls. The bell tower still stood, silent, unbroken. In 1572, exactly 200 years later, the County Historical Society decided to unseal it. That was their first mistake. 4 people gathered that morning: a historian, a local chronicler, a parish representative, and a locksmith. The chapel door was fused shut with iron braces and hardened resin. The windows had been bricked carefully, methodically, as though something inside had to be contained. When the final iron bar was removed, the door didn't creak open. It exhaled. A breath of air rushed out, stale, damp, and warm. That made no sense. There had been no airflow for over 4 centuries. The chronicler laughed nervously. Then the door swung inward on its own. Dust should have blanketed everything. Instead, the pews were clean. The hymn books rested neatly in their holders. Candles stood upright in brass trays, unburned, untouched by time. And at the altar stood Mark Radcliffe, not alive, not decayed, standing, skin gray, eyes closed, hands folded in prayer. Perfectly preserved, the historian whispered. That's impossible. Then the chronicler noticed something worse. The floorboards between the pews were deeply scratched from the inside, as if something had tried to claw its way toward the door. When they turned toward the exit, the door had closed, silently. The iron braces they had removed were back in place from the inside, and the bell above them began to ring. The sound was deafening. The parish representative screamed, pulling at the door. It wouldn't move. The historian rushed to the altar, examining Radcliffe's body. That's when he noticed a folded parchment clutched in the reverend's stiff hand. He pried it free. The ink was dark. Fresh, it read, "It is not God who answers the prayers of this chapel." The candles around the altar ignited at once. Flames shot upward, casting wild shadows, and that's when they saw them. The walls were covered in names, carved with frantic desperation. Villagers who had disappeared between 1368 and 1392. Every missing person, all scratched into the walls from the inside. The historian began reading old records. Reverend Radcliffe had arrived in 1365. The village prospered. But every year on October 31st, one villager would disappear for 27 years. In 1392, something went wrong. The final name carved into the wall was not a villager. It was Mark Radcliffe. The preserved corpse at the altar began to tremble. His eyes opened. They were completely black. His mouth opened wider than bone should allow, and a low vibration shook the chapel. The candles extinguished at once. Darkness swallowed them. The chronicler's journal, found days later, tells the rest. The final page contained only 4 numbers, scrawled in a frantic hand. 4321. Then silence. 3 days later, authorities forced entry after the Historical Society team failed to return. The iron braces were back on the outside, unbroken, untouched. Inside, the chapel was decayed and covered in thick dust. Pews rotted, hymn books crumbled, candles melted into wax puddles centuries old. At the altar stood nothing. No body, no parchment, no carvings on the walls, just empty stone. But in the front pew sat 5 skeletons, arranged neatly, hands folded, facing forward, as if attending service. The case was quietly closed. Official cause: carbon monoxide from disturbed mold spores. But one detail was never released publicly. In the parish archives, beneath the 1392 sealing order, a new entry appeared, dated October 31st, 1792. The handwriting matched Reverend Radcliffe's. It read, "The covenant is renewed," and beneath it were 5 new names: the historian, the journalist, the parish representative, the locksmith. Ashmere Hollow's crops have flourished ever since, And every October 31st, the chapel bell rings, even though there is no rope, even though the tower is empty. And if you stand outside the sealed doors at midnight, you can sometimes hear voices inside, praying, waiting for the next unsealing. Subscribe to find out what happened next.